All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo flying solo today. El Comandante Daryl Ortiz has some prior obligations, so you've got me today doing the recap for Backlash. Backlash for me has always felt like, I won't even call it a B-level PLE. I'm gonna call it like a C-level PLE at this point. It's coming off of WrestleMania. It feels like there's almost no build-up and no time to really do anything consequential. It's always the first matchup coming off of the WrestleMania matchups. So you really know usually there's not going to be a big world title change that's going to happen at Backlash. It has happened before. I think people always point towards Hulk Hogan versus Triple H at Backlash coming off of Mania where Hogan ended up winning the title. But those rarely happen. This one was only 5 matches. So again, it really, for me, always felt like an afterthought. And as far as PLEs go, it was okay. It wasn't great, exactly as I expected. We'll get right to it. The opening match for Backlash was Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker, which for me was a great match. This was match of the night. Probably should have gone on, maybe been the co-main event, but I understand why they put it here because I believe it was the first 2 matches were running on ESPN. So this is really done to try to get more eyeballs on the product, to get more mainstream viewers in. And Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker were both absolutely fantastic here. It was a great match, somewhat predictable. You knew there was going to be interference from the Vision, and there was. And so Braun, of course, got help. Braun, of course, won, which was the right call. He should have beat Seth Rollins here. I will say, though, this felt like a lost opportunity to kind of, again, if they were going to match these two up, I think it would have made more sense instead of having Breaker return at WrestleMania to attack Seth Rollins and interfere and allow Gunther to win. I think it would have made more sense for them to have that match at Mania versus trying to do it here at Backlash. But it was still really great. It was a really great match. It was a lot of fun. Braun Breaker ended up winning. Kind of curious, obviously, this is not going to be the end of this. If they're going to continue this on towards SummerSlam, I had hoped that they were going to build it towards a larger SummerSlam match, but we'll see where they go with it. But great match to start off, followed by Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams, which was a good match as well. This rivalry really hasn't resonated much with me. We had all of these shenanigans on SmackDown the night before with the funeral of the gingerbread man and the gingerbread man rising from the dead and coming back to life and it being Little Yachty in the suit. That was all stupid. I've hated that whole gingerbread angle and the gingerbread man funeral. But yeah, I mean, we had their blow off match here. Of course, we had some interference from Little Yachty and Trick Williams hit the trick shot and picked up the win. So Trick Williams obviously is still the United States champion. He wasn't going to lose it coming off of WrestleMania either. Hopefully they're done with Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams at this point because we already saw their Mania match. We've seen this build to Backlash, so hopefully they'll give Trick something better to do than do this silly rivalry with Sami Zayn. This was followed by The Miz and Kit Wilson versus Danhausen and Danhausen's mystery partner, which just turned out to be Minihausen because on SmackDown, Danhausen was working on a cloning machine, which apparently he has cracked cloning because he managed to clone a miniature version of himself and they had a match. This whole thing was silly and ridiculous. It was fun. It was just a little, I think it went on a little bit too long. They had the continuation of the cloning machine thing where at some point Kit Wilson locked Minihausen in the cloning machine and accidentally cloned several other Minihausens that all came running out, which again begs the question. Danhausen has a legitimate cloning machine. So he legitimately can curse people. Now legitimately has a cloning machine that albeit clones miniature versions of people, which is just remarkable technology. So this whole thing was silly. Danhausen and Minihausen did end up winning. It was fun. It was just one of those things that, again, we're at a PLE. It just felt a little over the top. Danhausen is for me the most fun thing about SmackDown at this point. So I enjoyed it. Good stuff, solid. But again, feels like a B-level PLE sort of thing. After this, we had Io Sky versus Asuka. This one was a really good match too. It was runner-up for match of the night, right behind Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. It was a good, solid match. We did have Io win clean here, and then the end was a little strange. So I feel like we got maybe an Asuka retirement tease, or maybe she's just leaving the WWE because once Io hit the over the moonsault, post match, you had Asuka in tears and she gave Io a big hug and kisses on the cheeks and kind of celebrated her and how proud she was of her. So complete character change, complete character break from the heel work that Asuka's been doing. Obviously, they had abandoned the whole Kairi Sane Asuka storyline because Kairi Sane got released. So what are we seeing here? Are we seeing Asuka? Is she going to step away from WWE? Was this kind of a mini retirement match or a goodbye match? Is really kind of how it felt with the way that she closed it out. she didn't like take off of her gloves or do anything like that, leave her boots in the ring. She didn't do anything like that, but it did kind of feel a little bit like there's some finality to it. It felt like it was her kind of almost saying goodbye in a way to, it was very strange. So we'll see where this goes. Is this kind of part of TKO's? This is what I'm more concerned about. Are we seeing this exodus of talent now because TKO, I think very famously was asking talent to take like a 50 to 60% pay cut and renegotiating people's contracts. And now are we seeing folks that are not going to renegotiate their contracts and they're just stepping away? Is that what's happening with Oscar too? Because that's typically happening with some of the older talent on the roster as well. Unfortunately, TKO's getting cheap. They're doing well. They're making lots of money, but it seems like they're slashing salaries. So I'm wondering, is this going to be another like salary cap casualty? We'll call it, uh, with Oscar maybe stepping away. We'll see. We'll see how this progresses. But it did seem like this kind of odd turn and kind of odd pivot away from her heel character, and almost kind of saying goodbye. But this was a really good match overall. After this, we got this huge announcement, sarcastic air quotes, huge announcement from John Cena. And he came out and he just kind of rambled about there being a John Cena Classic championship now. So there's, I guess, there's going to be a John Cena tournament, a John Cena Classic tournament, and that he's going to have people competing in this tournament. And even if somebody loses in the tournament, if the fans vote and decide that that person is the champion, they can still be crowned the champ even if they lost, because it's up to the fans to decide. It was the weirdest, most idiotic idea I think I've ever heard. I can't believe John Cena's attaching his name to it. So it was just odd. It's like, this is going to be a fans decide who the champion is. The fans vote on the champion. It just seemed a little strange. It didn't make a ton of sense to me. I don't know what you all thought about this. This just felt like kind of a needless scramble to say, hey, look, we're listening to the fans and we'll make somebody the champion that you want it to be, even if we don't book them right, and we book them to lose. If you just decide they're the champ, they're the champ. I thought this was ridiculous. I thought this was stupid, and I thought that they have been teasing and hyping that John Cena is going to be there with a huge championship. It's going to change the landscape of WWE forever. So the hyperbole was big on this one, and yeah, a little bit of a letdown for me. But what did you all think? Are you looking forward to the John Cena Classic? I guess is what's going to be called, John Cena Classic championship where anybody can win, sort of thing. So we'll see. After this, we got the main event: Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu. This was a good match too, but we all knew Roman wasn't going to lose the title. He just picked up from CM Punk. You knew he would retain. You also knew that there was going to be some way for everybody to save face here, in the sense that Jacob, obviously, they've hyped him up as like this monster who's running through everyone. He's using the tongue and death grip. He'll do whatever it takes. So you knew something was going to happen here. I wasn't sure if Jey Uso and Jimmy were going to come down. They did not. Essentially, the way they worked it out of this one was towards the end. The top turnbuckle pad got taken off. Roman ended up hitting Jacob's face into the exposed turnbuckle, which is just one little ring, which shouldn't make that much of a difference. He hit his face into that, and then he followed up with a spear and got the win. So technically, Roman cheated to beat Jacob for two, and then Jacob lost it afterward, attacked Roman, attacked the ref, then locked in the tongue and death grip. I was attempting to murder Roman because he was foaming at the mouth. Security came down and eventually broke it up and were able to rip it off him. But that was like the closing visual, was Jacob completely losing his mind and nearly attempting to murder Roman Reigns, but Roman retained as well. Again, all of this was pretty predictable. No big upset. Titles weren't changing hands. It's Backlash in only 5 matches. So I've never been a huge fan. And I always feel like whatever the rivalry is coming off of WrestleMania, they're just going to do like here's this transitional opponent that comes in and loses. So that's what I expected. And this is exactly what we got. It was fine. It was okay. And now we'll head on and see, what's happening down the road as we get into Raw and SmackDown as far as the aftermath. Do they continue this rivalry with Jacob? I'm almost worried that now they're going to do almost a Bloodline 2.0, Bloodline 3.0, we'll call it. Is Jacob going to have his own crew? We're going to see kind of a similar Bloodline War storyline with him and Roman. Maybe. I hope not. I don't really want to see a rehashing and a retelling of that. But where do you think that they're going to go with Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns? Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about it as well. The match itself was good. Obviously, it was good. Jacob's very talented. So was Roman. And I thought they worked really well together. It just kind of was what it was. And you knew he wasn't going to win here. But that was it. That was it for Backlash. What was your favorite moment? What was your match of the night? What do you think of the John Cena Classic? Classic hyperbole, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not looking forward to that at all. It seems somewhat confusing, at least for me. But that's what we got. We'll be back next week to talk about the aftermath of Backlash, the backlash of Backlash, and then to talk about the continuation. Looks like it's going to be Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. For the WWE Championship coming up at Clash of Paris. I believe they announced that on SmackDown as well. So Clash in Paris, I think, is the next one that is on the docket. And so we'll start hype machine running towards that one. But that's what we've got for today. It's also Mother's Day. So I just wanted to say happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Thank you for all that you do. Uh, Enjoy the time with your family. Hopefully your kids are pampering you today and you get to take the day off, but probably not going to be the case. But happy Mother's Day to all of our moms. And that's what I got for this week, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments. And that's what I've got for today. Kept it short and sweet, 12 minutes roughly, but that's what we've got. So I'm Michael D'Angelo. I've been Michael D'Angelo. I will see you next week. Have a great week, everyone. See you soon.